she said, I was a medical patient in Cuba for 3 years, a long time ago, 89 through 92. And I'm writing what I call faction because it's memoir in the third person. And this is a piece from it. The only thing you need to know is that there was a halfway hotel, which was called El Hotelito, which is a little hotel that was for people getting medical care in Cuba from everywhere in Latin America and the Caribbean. All right. The chorus on the porch, or a kidney for Jorge. The blue glow of the television cast the only light in the ground floor lobby of Building B that night. The spell of the Brazilian soap opera, La Novela, where Montserrat, the arrogant landowner, was about to take sweet Amelia against her will. And that novela held them, each surrendered to her seat, mouth barely closed, sore muscles unwinding in the soft, cool night. Sunk into her wheelchair, Vilma's manicured fingers, adorned by one peaceful ring, drooped elegantly over her lap. A tropicola and her medicine lay on the floor by the wheel. The leaf of the potted plant waved slowly with the night's erratic breeze, like an elephant's ear, almost touching Teresa's right cheek. From time to time, she raised her hand as if to move the leaf away, but something on the screen would claim her attention, and the hand would hold midair, then sink back. Nancy and Betsy sat on the other side of the potted plant. Etelvina had wheeled out, set her locks, and leaned forward intent. Every few minutes, either Betsy or Teresa, neither of whom could watch TV without talking, would launch a "¿Qué hijo de puta?" or "¿Lo puedes creer?" And Vilma, invariably polite, would answer, "Aha," without turning her head. If you were to stand outside on the patio, you would see the same blue light from the lobbies on the first and second floors of each of the 3 buildings, and you would hear no music, no conversations, just occasional exclamations from those watching. And make no mistake, almost everyone was watching, and not just at the Hotelito. If you stood outside the main door, you'd see blue light from every household up and down 7th Avenue. The people christened the winter's flu Montserrat, as in, me dio el Montserrat, or she caught the Montserrat. All over the island, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m., the block meeting broke off, couples stopped kissing on the malecón, and the streets all but emptied. Isabel was on duty that night and watched the novela from the desk and switchboard in the main lobby. So it was she who received the call. If anyone had been watching her instead of the TV, they would have seen her listen, fumble the phone, recover, and no longer looking toward the screen, hang up and dial quickly. There was no answer. She looked around blankly, then came out from behind the desk, walked quickly through the dining hall, across the patio, and almost running now, along the path towards Building B. Before she got through the door, she was asking, "Is Vilma Quiñones here?" And before Vilma could answer, Isabel saw her and bent over to whisper in her ear. Teresa noticed Vilma start, and then watched her unlock her wheelchair and push quickly behind Isabel out the door. A few minutes later, she was back to grab the tropicola and her medicine. There's a kidney for Jorge, she said. Teresa said, "What? A kidney? A kidney for Jorge? And he's not here. He went to the movies." "Oh my God," said Teresa, and turned to Nancy. "A kidney for Jorge, and he's not here." Vilma had already turned and headed out. Teresa followed her, her crutches clicking sharply as she tried to catch up. She made it to the main lobby in time to see an ambulance pull up. Vilma, already on the porch, began talking to the driver. Isabel, at the switchboard trying to call the movie theater, was telling Teresa about the hospital's call when Vilma said, "They'll take me to the movie theater to get Jorge. And before Teresa could really assimilate that information, the ambulance attendants hoisted the wheelchair with Vilma in it and took off. Teresa and Isabel were on the porch when Nancy and Vilma Betsy got there. Isabel repeated the story. How the Transplant Institute called, how Jorge had gone to the movies alone, Adriana, his girlfriend, and Christian had gone to an art opening, how Jorge had given Isabel the information about where he would be just as he was supposed to, but how the damn telephone, well, they all nodded, knowing all too well about the damn telephones that never worked. They stayed on the porch, and as the news, oye, un riñón para Jorge, hey, a kidney for George, spread, they were joined by others. Rodolfo came downstairs in shorts and sandals. Melania leaned on her one crutch. Ligia and Oti bustled up. All in all, it was quite a crowd that greeted the ambulance as it rolled up the small curved driveway. Y Jorge, they asked. But when the attendants lifted Vilma down, she was alone. The driver said something to her, and then the ambulance was gone. Vilma described how they went through the theater calling his name, but Jorge wasn't there. Maybe he left before the picture finished and was walking home. Maybe he went somewhere else. Vilma had convinced the ambulance crew to search for him again along the streets between the theater and the Hotelito. If they didn't find him, they'd come by just one more time. One more time? Yes. After that, they'd go on to the next name on the transplant list. Isabel said they had wanted to go on to the next name from the moment they found out that Jorge wasn't at home, but Vilma convinced them to take her to the theater, just as she convinced them to do one more search along the streets. Vilma, who had, luckily, been home at the Hotelito the night 4 years before when her own kidney arrived. Rodolfo and Oti couldn't stand still and took off down 7th Avenue, just in case. They were returning from one direction when Ligia shouted and pointed, and there was Jorge, walking calmly, one hand in his pocket, his head down. The porch erupted in yells of Jorge and kidney and ahora. He stood at the bottom of the steep driveway, looked bewildered. Then, as he finally heard what everyone was yelling, he moved 2 steps, saying, "Don't do this to me," and stopped. The chorus on the porch assured him it was true. Un riñón, Jorge. And he took several more steps and said, "Is this some kind of joke? Imbéciles, how can you joke?" And the chorus interrupted, and he took a few more steps until he stood almost to the porch, saying angrily, "Why are you doing this to me?" And the chorus answering, "Un riñón, Jorge, a kidney for you." And he still looked angry, even when the ambulance swept up behind him, slid the door open, helped him in, and took off, amid the rousing shouts and the waving of hands from the chorus on the porch. Thank you very much.